My name is Gasia, Mikaelian, and today we're talking about how children can be helped through this COVID-19 pandemic. I'm so happy to welcome psychiatrist Dr. Mercedes Kwiatkowski to the conversation. You're with the Palo Alto Medical Foundation here in the Bay Area. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure.
Of course, it's so important to talk with you. Let's start with what you've been seeing as you're meeting with children and talking with their parents.
Well, we've been seeing a lot. Kids are really anxious. They're struggling. They're having mood issues. They're having to take on a lot by managing school from home. A lot of their parents are busy and not able to help, and teachers are pretty overwhelmed as well. So we're seeing a lot of regressive behaviors. Maybe your kid was no longer wetting the bed and now they're wetting the bed, or they're starting biting. They're more maybe irritable, sad, emotional. We're seeing a lot of different things popping up that are kind of a change from before.
And it's all happening, like you said, as parents are stressed. And I'll admit, so I have two little boys. They're 10 and a half and 12 years old, fifth and sixth grades, doing, school at the dining room table here, a couple rooms away. In the past, when I have been stressed, I've actually said to them, I need you guys to be on your best behavior here. Please do not add to my existing stress. You can't really ask that these days anymore, can you?
You really can't. And I'm a mother as well, and my kids feed off my emotions my one kid will watch every single move and reaction I make. So I actually have to work on myself. If I'm having a stressful day, I have to take 5 minutes, take a few deep breaths before I engage with the kids. And I'll share with them, I had a really stressful day and I'm doing the best I can. And that kind of helps the kids get a sense of what's going on. But it is important for us to manage our own emotions as much as we can.
Are we not allowed to, I guess, what's your best advice when it comes to parents who are stressed? Should we explain that stress to our children and risk stressing them more? Do we try to put on a happy face and then my kids will figure out mommy's faking it? Where do we find that balance?
That's a great question. I think it's important to model our kids the appropriate language, and that it's okay to be anxious or sad sometimes, but not overwhelm them with the emotions. So you can share, I'm worried about this, or I'm feeling sad about not being able to see our grandparents for Christmas, and then kind of move forward with it. And then this is what we can do to make it special or different. When I'm having a bad day, I'm going to go for a walk outside for 20 minutes. Why don't you join me? Kind of sharing how you feel and then how you're trying to cope with it.
What might we see in children that could be COVID-19 stress related? If a parent thinks, oh, he's refusing to empty, to use a personal example, he's refusing to empty the dishwasher because he's lazy, or he would just rather be on YouTube all day. How can that pop up in ways that parents might not easily recognize?
Well, I think that's a good question. We're seeing that, sorry, I'm losing my train of thought for a second. Kids don't have a lot of opportunity for choice right now. So and they're being told a lot of what they have to do and not a lot of flexibility. So if there are ways where, like emptying the dishwasher, instead of us saying, do it now because I need it done now, say, one of your tasks today is unload the dishwasher. I'll leave it up to you when you're going to do it. That gives them a little bit of flexibility and choice in what's going on. But we are going to see a lot of pushback and resistance. Kids aren't getting the socialization and they're not navigating those interactions very much. So we're their parents, we're their teachers, we're their friends. So they're working through all of that stuff with us.
And it's a delight. I definitely think that one of the good things, if there is any, about this pandemic is that it is creating more family time together. That can be great. It can also be very stressful. Our house kind of already felt small before March, and now it feels like we're living in a shoebox. How can you help parents and children have a little bit of that space and separation that probably both sides need?
Yes, I think it's important that we try to create separate spaces from school and play and work and family time. So a lot of people in the Bay Area, we have very small spaces. So with some of my students, they actually just buy screens and they put that behind their desk. So it kind of creates a special space for their school area. And then the rest of their bedroom can be used for whatever else they want to be doing. Same with families, if you're sharing living room or kitchen space, try to section it off. It's also really good for our mental health and well-being that our work isn't overflowing with our relaxation time.
Right. It's almost, I joke like we all own our own businesses now. My sister owns her business, and in the beginning she was just on call 24/7. And I thought, oh, I never want to do that, and here we are
Yes.
working all the time, school all the time, family all the time. Let's talk about those children and families that need a little bit more help, and what you're seeing in children who had previously received either psychiatric or other such services. How are they faring?
It's interesting, as a mental health field, we have not only our current patients, we're getting new patients, and then people we used to work with are coming out of the woodwork as well, saying, I thought my anxiety was resolved and it's come back. So, in periods of stress, we kind of resort to old behaviors or old patterns that maybe we'd work through in therapy or we had medication to help with. And this is a stressful time. So a lot of that stuff is coming back for them to have to deal with. So whether it's being worried, anxious, tearful, they don't have their friends and social supports to kind of work through that with. So it's been really challenging. We're seeing a lot of that coming back.
And it sounds like you're seeing a lot of new patients as well.
Yes, a lot of new people who maybe their anxiety was mild or really never bothered them, and now it's interfering with their ability to do what they need to do.
So how can you tell, I know that the old advice in when we're not in a pandemic was reassure your child that everything is going to be okay. Let's say their best friend is moving out of state, right? I think I can probably talk my way through a series of conversations that'll eventually have my sons feeling better. This is something that I don't know when it's going to end, and I don't know how it's going to end.
Mm-hmm.
How can we have those reassuring conversations when we don't have the answers?
It's a really difficult time because so much is uncertain, and when we don't know what to expect, it's hard to share that with our kids. What's most important is having open conversations that are age appropriate, saying things like, we don't know exactly what's coming, but here's what we do know, and empowering our kids to feel anchored in some certain things. So that is routine. Try to have a consistent bedtime, wake up time, have consistent meals together as a family. Make sure you're getting out and going on walks, have a regular Friday night family night, game night, pizza night, movie night. As long as kids have structure and routine, they can fall back on that consistency to be reassuring.
Have you had any children or any parents call you and talk about Santa or the holidays? My boys asked me, well, how can Santa go house to house if we're not supposed to be going house to house? And I was like, oh, I don't know. Have you heard such concerns? And if so, how do you deal with them?
My own kids have asked that because we've actually ran into the tooth fairy who was COVID protected. So I've heard that Santa has magic that protects him from COVID-19. So that's what I've been sharing with families.
Got it. I will share that with my sons. Is there anything else you would like to tell us as parents or caregivers to help heighten our awareness of something that is happening, but we may not be able to recognize?
Yes, I think it's important to watch for your kids, even in subtle ways. If they're seen withdrawn or isolated or spending a lot of time in their room, not really wanting to participate in the family gatherings, if they're not really caring about their hygiene, showering regularly, brushing their teeth, they're not eating regular meals anymore. With my own family, one of my kids is really sensitive right now, and to the point where he's tearful a lot and anxious. So anything that seems like a change or different. And again, like we said, it's hard as working parents. We've got so many different things going on, it's easy to miss. So I also encourage families to have regular check-ins with their kids, even if it's just 5 to 10 minutes a day, to see how they're doing and leave it open-ended. So, ask them kind of open-ended questions, make a safe space for them to talk about how they're feeling.
I like it. I also like the word you're using, tearful. I've been trying to explain, to my close friends, I'm a pretty emotive person, right? My husband calls me the town crier. I am the person who will cry at the Kleenex commercial and the sad song on the radio. That was me even before the pandemic. Now, I feel like if my emotions had this far to go to travel to the service, they have this far to go. And I feel like everything is just right there. So if I even think about a sad song, or if I even think about my parents, it's just an overflow. Is that tearful? Is that kind of summing up what you're?
And I think the important thing there for us and our kids is to remind ourselves that that's totally normal and expected right now. Our bandwidth for our emotions is much smaller because we're feeling stress every single day. It's okay to be sad and it's okay to cry. And we don't want to force our kids to get through that too quickly. You know, we want them to feel what they're feeling so they can learn, you know, I can be sad and I can still be okay. You know, I can be worried and I'll still do well on the test. You know, I can do hard things. It's important for the kids to experience that. We're actually building a generation of very resilient children right now. So I remind myself of that when I'm having a hard day.
I find that these days I tend to be a little more indulgent and a little more permissive with my children. I think, you know, they can't go skateboarding with their friends like they used to. They can't go see my parents in person. You know, the other day, my, when was it? The other day, my 12 and a half, no, wait, is he, no, he's 12. Okay, no. The other day, my 12-year-old asked me for gingerbread cookies and hot cocoa on a random Tuesday. And I said, you know what? I can do that. And so we put on the Christmas music and I baked the cookies and had the hot cocoa. And I thought, this is one thing I can do for him.
Yes. That's beautiful. I love that. He came to you with a need and you met it and he probably felt a lot better afterwards.
He really did. And I did too, because I feel like our day is a series of no. You know, they say like, oh, you know, like they're on Zoom for school and they turn off their cameras. And so I sneak a peek and I say, turn on your camera, you know, and they go, and they do it. And then I'm sure the minute I leave, they turn it back off again. But I feel like our day is a series of no's. And
Yeah.
I thought, oh, he gave me something that I can do. And I was so happy for that.
Yes, I think it's so important to be looking for those opportunities. And, you know, holidays are going to be very different this year. I encourage families to think about how can we make it special in a new way. And kids are quite creative. So you can have family brainstorming sessions where you talk about what could we do differently this year that would make a new tradition. So when we look back, we can say, oh, we started doing this because of COVID, you know?
I like it. Is there anything else you would like to tell our viewers in terms of helping children, helping themselves, or perhaps online resources you'd like to point people to if they're not, you know, if they're not fortunate enough to have professional help at their doorstep or on their phone?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a great question. I encourage families, for the most part, to take deep breaths and remind themselves that we're all doing the best we can. And some days that looks great, and other days we're limping across the finish line. And to give yourself space and grace for what you're doing. And the same with your children. They're also having a hard time. So it's okay if they have a rough day, just be there with them and support them through it. I would say the NAMI website, nami.org, is a great starting point for families. They have a lot of free resources and can connect you with other opportunities.
Very good. Okay, I appreciate everything you've said. I feel better just talking to you and knowing I'm not the only one who starts crying at, you know, at a Willie Nelson song. I appreciate it so much. A big, big thank you and a virtual hug to Dr. Mercedes Kwiatkowski, psychiatrist at the Palo Alto Medical Foundation. Thank you again.
Thank you so much.